this video, we will take a look at the Stream platform. And if you're not familiar, the Stream platform provides you with feed and chat APIs to easily incorporate feeds and chats into your applications. So for example, if you wanted a customer support chat channel, or even if you wanted to create a fully fledged chat application, that is possible to do with their API. And they've recently started supporting Flutter. So you can see at the bottom here, they provide a variety of different frameworks that they support, and Flutter is one of those now. So they actually made a very good tutorial about how to use the Flutter SDK with their Stream API. And if you are interested, I definitely recommend that you give this a read. We will explore a lot of this functionality in this video and see what built-in widgets they expose that we can use to quickly get up and running with a chat application, or at least the chat functionality. And then we will see how we can use the API to build our own custom widgets and to customize the interface in a way that we want, or in any way that we want. And as I mentioned, they support a variety of different APIs or languages. So if you want to use their API in a different platform and not in Flutter, you can do that as well. So you can go take a look at that. So as an example, they support React, iOS, Java, and then they have a variety of different server APIs as well, because there are some functionality that you would need to incorporate on the server side, and then you have the APIs that are exposed to the client. And later on in the video, we will touch a bit more on that, how you can use their server APIs to do more security sensitive operations. For example, authenticating users or issuing tokens and upgrading user accounts to be administrators. So before we continue with the video, I would like to highlight everything that we will cover. We will begin by exploring some of the examples that they provide, just to show how we can use their custom widgets in our applications and how we can incorporate their APIs to basically get up and running. Then we will explore how we can use their dashboard to create applications on the back end, and then how we can issue tokens to authenticate users. And then we will go a little bit deeper and explore how we can customize their widgets to basically give a unique look and feel to the chat interface. And then finally, we will explore how we can use their API to build any widget that we want. So as an example, using their API to retrieve the information that we want and then rendering it in whatever widget we can imagine. At the end of the video, we will have a functional chat application that simulates logging with a couple of users, and then it allows those users to create channels and send each other messages. So let's get started and first explore how we can incorporate their API into our Flutter applications. Okay, so the first thing that we have to do is head on over to pub.dev and grab the latest Stream Chat Flutter dependency. And they also provide you with an overview of all of their custom widgets and basically how you can incorporate them. So what we will do in the beginning section of this video is just explore some of their examples before we start building our own widgets with their API. So if you head on over to their repository, you will see that they have an example folder, and that example is the example that we will use in this application. So if you want to get started with some ready-made examples, then yeah, you can just head on over to their GitHub repository and grab the example folder over here. And this example folder is actually their tutorial. So if you follow the tutorial that they've published on their website, it basically lists all of the different steps. So you can see in the beginning, you create a single channel and then you proceed and add functionality. So I've gone ahead and opened their example folder in Visual Studio Code, and these files are literally the different steps in the tutorial. So if we head on over to their website, you will see that this tutorial is split into multiple sections, and in each one of these individual sections, they provide additional functionality to the chat app. And that is what these individual files are, just the different steps in creating the final chats application. And as you can see, the final file is this main.dart, and it is basically only 100 lines of code. So as I said, this is the final step in their example. So let's step back a pace and then take a look at the beginning, or the first step. So this is the first part of the tutorial. As you can see, the first step of the tutorial. And I'm just going to take all of this and put it in the main.dart file, and then we will run this. Okay, so we have the chat app running, and as you can see, it is just a single page or a single chat page. And as you can expect, we can type a message, for example, hi, and send that through. And you may have noted that you can see reactions to messages. So if you want to create a reaction, you can just long press and then you can give a reaction like that. And you can also add files. So you can upload a photo or a video or just a regular file. So I encourage you to play around with this once you actually install it on your own. I'm not going to do this just because I don't have any files on my emulator. However, later in the video, we will see some of these files being posted. They might actually be, as you can see, someone else has already uploaded this picture of this keyboard over here. So this stream over here that we're looking at is not a stream that I have control over. This is their development application. So what do I mean by this? Well, if we take a look at the code, you will see that we initialize this client over here, and this client provides this key over here, and this key is associated to a specific application, and this API key points to that chat app that we just saw, or it points to the application that contains all of the channels and all of the users and all of the messages that we send. And if that did not make sense, do not worry. We are going to delve into this in a lot more detail in a moment. I first just want to explore some of the widgets that are available in the API. So that's enough talking on my end. Let's actually begin and explore the code. So as you can see, we have our main function, and in the main function, we initialize this client. And this client is basically our entry point. So this is the instance of the application, or the instance of the chat application, and we will use this to make network requests. We will use it to authenticate the user or to set the current user, and we will use it to get the access to the channels, and we will use it to get access to the messages. And to initialize the client, we need the API key, which we will get from our dashboard in the stream platform, which we will see in a moment how to do. And then you can see we can specify a variety of other optional parameters, for example, the log level. And there are a number of different levels that you can set for logging. So you can set it to be severe, I think, as an example, or severe, warning, config, or you can say none. For now, I'm just going to keep it at info. And you will note that they say the client should only be initialized once and it should be reused across your application. So in this example, as it's quite an easy example, we are just initializing the client and then passing it down to the child widgets. In a later example, we will clean this up a little bit and show how we can expose the client using a package like getIt. So after we set the client, the next thing that we might want to do is set the user. So we would actually need to set a user to make a variety of different API calls, or to be allowed to make API calls. And setting the user is essentially authenticating it. But it's not really authenticating it. It is just setting the user's ID and then providing a token associated to that user. So this token is their authorization token, and this token gets generated by you as the developer. So normally how you would use this is you'd have your application and you'd have your server, and then you'd authenticate your user as you normally would with your application, and then your server would issue a token, and that token will be sent to the client application, and then you can use this token in your app to make authenticated calls to the Stream API. If that didn't make sense, do not worry. We will explore this in more detail as well, how we can create users and how we can issue tokens for them. However, for now, we are using the example that they provided. So they've already proceeded to create this user and they provide the token for that user. And then next up, we create a channel, and that is quite easy to do. We just call client.channel and then we specify the type. So the type of the channel. And later on, we will explore and you will see that there are multiple different types and you can also create your own type. So for example, this could be of type live stream, it could be of type gaming, could be type messaging, and you can set custom permissions for all of these types in the stream dashboard. And in a moment, we will explore that as well. And then we set the ID for the channel. And there are a variety of other things we can set for the channel as well. For example, we can set this extra data property to give the channel a profile picture or to set a variety of different other attributes. Basically any attribute that you want that you can then use in your application to make a custom look and feel. However, the two most important ones are the ID and specifying the type of the channel. And then once we have the channel, we pass both the client and the channel to our application. So in our My App, this is where we start using the stream widgets, and the main widget or the parent of all of these should be the stream chat widget. So this is a inherited widget, and as you can see, we set the client of the stream chat, and this needs to be the parent of all of the child chat widgets, as these child chat widgets use the inherited functionality of the stream chat widget to access the client. So as an example, it would call streamchat.of and then get access to the client. And then we set the channel using the stream channel widget, and we pass in the channel as a widget. And then this stream channel requires you to have a child, and this child, we are specifying this to be the channel page. And this is a widget or a custom widget that they've made for this example, and this is what renders what you see on screen. So as an example, you can see we return a scaffold with an app bar. So if we were to comment this app bar out, you will see that now the channel header has vanished. And yeah, this is just to illustrate that technically you can build whatever you want here, or you can lay it out however you want. We are just incorporating their widgets. And for example, we are laying all of this out in a column, and at the end we have this message input, and if we wanted to, we could remove that, and then we can't send any more messages, and then we are just expanding the column to fill the remaining size, and then we are specifying the message list view, and this uses the client to get access to all of these different messages. And that is why the message list view needs to be a child of the stream chat widget. And that is because we need access to this client. So instead of passing in the client to each of these child widgets, we are using the stream chat as an inherited widget. And then within the message list view, it gets access to the client. So that is the one important thing. If you want to use their custom widgets to incorporate this chat functionality, it would need to be a child of stream chat. And if you want to initialize a channel, then you do it with stream channel, and then you just specify the child of what you want to render. One thing that I haven't shown, and which is important obviously, is that you need to add the dependency. So in this instance, because it's their example, they add the stream chat dependency using the path attribute, because this is within the repo. But you would need to specify the pub.dev dependency. And later on, when we build our own custom application, we will do this. So if we head back to main, you can see that this is literally just that. It's just a single channel page, and it allows users to send messages that are part of this channel. So not a lot of functionality at the moment. Okay, so we're going to skip ahead a little bit and going to go straight to the final step of their example. And if you want to go through this at your own pace, I definitely recommend giving their tutorial a read. It will take you like 20 minutes maybe. and they go into a lot of detail, providing you step-by-step information. So what I did is I'm going back to the final main.dart file, and I'm going to hit save, and this time we're issuing it, and you can see there's already changes. So now we have multiple different channels, okay? And these channels you can create if you want to, and if you click on a channel, then it opens the chat page for that channel. And we are still authenticated as the SuperBand9 user. So if we send messages, it's still this little frog sending the messages. And yeah, as you can see, now we have a little bit more functionality available to us. We can access different channels, and you can also see that we have these replies over here. So yeah, as you can see, GIFs also work. And then if we hit this reply, this will open a thread. Okay, so this is the start of the thread, meaning that you can send direct messages in response to someone else's message. And yeah, just to illustrate again, this is all the code that's needed for this entire functionality if you use their defaults. And if we take a look at the code, you will note that there are not a lot of differences. The same client that we're initializing, the same set user. Something that I didn't mention, you have to await this. So you need to wait for the set user call to finish, because as I said, the API calls needs to be authenticated. So you need to actually set the user before making other client API calls. I may be speaking incorrectly, but that was my experience with using the API. And then yeah, you send the client through, same as the previous time. However, this time we are not sending and creating a channel, and that is because we are making use of the channel list page, okay? And the channel list page is a custom widget that they made, and it's a scaffold, and in the body of the scaffold we make use of the channel list view, and this is provided by the stream package, or the Flutter stream package. And then you can see we have this optional filter, which I will touch on in a moment, and then sorts as well, pagination, and the main thing we care about again is the channel widget. And then we see the channel page, and we have seen the channel page before. So the channel page is the widget that renders the actual page, as you can see over here. And it's exactly the same, except for the fact that we have the thread builder over here, and I think there is something else that's different as well. We will go into this in more detail now, but let's head back and explore the channel list view. So the channel list view needs to be a child of stream chat, and then it accesses the client from the stream chat, and then it uses the client to make API calls to get access to all of the channel data, and then you can specify filters. So in this instance, we are saying we only want to see the channels that you are a member of. And by you, I mean the user SuperBand9. And there are a variety of different filters that you can do. And for more information on using filters, I recommend you take a look at the documentation on their website. But as an example, we can remove the filter, and then it should be quite hectic depending on the number of channels that are on this development API. I'm not too sure. Let's take a look. And there you go. As you can see, a lot of different channels. And I'm not too sure how you set restrictions on who can view whose channel. If it is a client or server restriction, I'm sure there is some way that you can do that. Maybe if someone watches this video who knows what API calls to set or what flags to set on the backend to make channels restricted. But for now, let's pretend that is not the case and just filter client side. And then you can see we have sorts. So we're sorting by the last message received. And then we also have pagination, meaning that you can paginate if the channels are more than 20. One thing that I haven't mentioned, and something that we will explore later once we create multiple users, is that if you send messages, you will see little notifications to highlight that a message hasn't been read or not. So, okay, let's go down, and now in the channel page, we have our message list view. So if we go to this channel over here, as you can see, we have our channel header, and then the message list view is all of this. And then we have this optional parameter called thread builder. And this needs to be supplied if we want there to be threads on the channel. And if you want more information on this, I definitely recommend that you read the tutorial on their website. But the main idea is that we want to return some widgets that will render once we click on a thread. So if we go to the thread page, you can see it's a scaffold as well with a thread header, and we specify the parent, so the parent text data, and we get the parent by using the thread builder function. And you can see we have the parent message over here that we can just pass into the thread page. And in the thread page, we just render out the stuff that we want to see. So again, we have message list view, and this time we specify the parent message to be the parent, and then we have message input, and for the message input, we again need to specify the parent message. So for the message list view and the message input, this parameter over here, the parent message, basically specifies that you are applying to a previous message that has been sent, if I understand it correctly. But yeah, that is the gist of it. Later on in the video, we will explore how we can customize these messages to basically render any message or render the message in a unique fashion. So for example, if you don't like the default styling, you can either alter the theme of the message list view as an example, or you can just create your own message list view, and that we will explore later on in the video. So this was just the introductory. Next up, we will see how we can use the stream dashboard to create our own applications, and then how we can start generating our own channels and our own users. Okay, next up, we will take a look at the stream dashboard, and here we will use their dashboard to create applications and do a variety of different configurations. So if you want to follow along, or if you want to play with this yourself, just head on over to getstream.io, and there you can create a free account, and you don't need to sign up with a credit card. I believe you get 30 days for free to play around with the API. So after you've signed up and created an account, you can click to go to dashboard, and here you can see we have the dashboard for the Fun with Flutter profile. And as you can see, I've made a number of different applications playing around, and the one that I'm currently using is this development Fun with Flutter. So I'm actually going to go through the process of creating a new one so that you can see how to do it, and it's very easy to do. So you just hit create app, and then you give it a name, and I will call this YouTube tutorial. And I won't be cloning an existing app, as the defaults are fine. And then instead of saying production, we're going to say this is a development environment, and then just hit submit. And there we go, we have a new application. And as you can see, it currently says the feed overview, and we are in the feed groups. So we aren't creating a feed application, we are creating a chat app. So we just want to hit the chat drop down over here and go to chat overview. And as we would expect, there have been 0 calls to this API. And if we scroll down here, you can see we have those chat types that I mentioned. And you may have noted that in that instance, I was using messaging. And as you can see, you can do different configurations for these different chat types. And in the messaging one, if I say that correctly, the messaging one, we have a variety of different toggle switches that we can set. So for example, people can reply, you can do mutes, you can do uploads, and there are a number of different settings that you can set. And I'm not going to play around with this any more than needed. Feel free to play around with this if you are making your own, but for the demo purposes, the defaults are entirely fine. And they've created a number of other defaults. So for example, live streaming and commerce and team And all of these have some nice configured defaults that you would want for these different types of chats. But as we're creating a chat application, we will be using the messaging. And if we continue scrolling down, we can see that we have the app access keys. And here you can see we have the key and we have the secret over here. So up until now, you would not have seen the secret, and that is because the secret needs to be kept secret. This is not something you want to use in your front-end application. So for example, this is not a key you want to include in your mobile app. This is a key that you want to use on your backend server, as you can do security-sensitive operations using the secret key. So as an example, and this is something that we will explore, the act of creating user tokens for authentication, you need the secret key to issue a token to a user. And issuing tokens is something that you would do on the server. And just as a highlight, this is the server communication that I'm talking about, where we have our mobile or front-end application talking to our server, and then our server is sending the token back, and then we use that token in our communication with the Stream API. So as an example of how we can use the key and the secret, let's explore how we can use our newly created application in the previous chat app that we saw. So we're going to take this key and copy paste this into the client or into the API key value of the client object. And then now we will have a problem, and that problem will be that the Superband user is not registered on this API. So there's two things we need to do. First, we need to create a user, and then we need to issue a token to that user, as that token is needed to authenticate the user. So I've created a Python script that uses their Python API, and this will be our fake server. So instead of having like a real server that we send requests to and issue tokens, we will just be creating the tokens manually and then adding them to our development application. So technically, this is by no means a server. It's literally just using their API to create some users on our newly generated application, and then also creating tokens that we can use to authenticate the users. So as you can see, we are importing Stream Chat, and as I mentioned, this is in Python. You can use a variety of different languages that they support. I'm just opting in for Python because it's very easy to read, and a lot of people are familiar with Python. And then we are creating a client as we would have done in our Flutter application. The only difference is now, instead of only providing the API key, we also need to provide the secret. And as I said, the secret is something you want to keep secret. This is something that should only be on your server and be kept securely, or be stored securely. And then once we've initialized the client, now we can do more sensitive operations. And updating the users is the first thing that we will do. And technically this is not a sensitive operation. You can create users from the front-end API as well. However, you cannot set admin users. So from the server, if you have the API secret, then you can make users administrators as well. And users with admin privileges can do additional things. For example, delete other users' messages and stuff like that. So here I'm just creating a couple of users just so we actually have data that we can play with, or at least multiple user accounts that we can send messages with, and then just setting profile pictures for them, specifying a name, and you can see that the role is defined as user. If I wanted to, I could make one of these admin, but I'm not going to do that. I want all of these to be users. And then you will see we have a call called create token, and then you need to specify the user ID. So as an example, we are going to do a user ID for Bernard, and then we get the token and then we print the token. So if we run this now, it should create all of these users and then get a token for the user Bernard. However, this API key and this API secret is not correct. This is from the last time that I used it. So we just need to update it with the new app that we made. So just copy paste all of the values. And now if we run the script, we can see that it outputs a token. So the value that we want is this value over here, not the single quotes and the B. So we're just going to take all of this and then copy paste it. And then we want to head back to our application. And now instead of making the user or setting the user to that one, we're going to set it to be Bernard. And then we need to put in the token for Bernard. And if we run the application now, it should be issued with the new user that we made on the new application that we made as well. And there you go, our application is loaded, and you might be surprised to see that there is nothing on screen. And that is because there is nothing in our backend application. But you can see that we are doing logs, and in our debug console, you can note that the WebSocket is connected. So messages are getting through. You can see we have our user set to be Bernard, and we are making requests to the Stream API, and we're doing health checks. It's just that there are no data to load. And that is a good place to end this section, because in the next part, we will be exploring how we can use the client to create our own custom widgets, and in particular, how we can create new channels that we can add to our application. As a little bit of a side note, you saw that I used Python to initiate the API calls. Stream has also made available a CLI, so a command line interface that you can use. So I'm just zooming in a little bit so you can see. And that CLI is Stream. And if we run Stream, and actually if we run Stream commands, and let's just make this a little bit bigger, you can see that there are a variety of different configurations that we can do, or commands that we can issue. So for example, we can create channels, we can list channels, we can update and create channels. Same for messages, we can send messages to certain channels, or we can create users, ban users, etc. So if you're looking for a fast way to make API calls to your Stream application, then check out the Stream CLI. I will leave a link to this in the description, and yeah, it's quite easy to use. If you are interested in all of this, definitely let me know in the comments if you'd like to see me making a fully fledged application, maybe making use of Python or some other framework as a backend, and making calls from the mobile app to the Python server or whatever server it might be, and then building a bit of a more fully fledged chat application. Because as of now, as you see, we are just simulating authentication and simulating creating users, etc. But enough of that, let's head on over to the next section, which will be the really fun part, and that is customizing the chat app. Okay, we are skipping ahead to the future, and the app is finished and it's ready made, and we are gonna run through everything I did to get to this final point. So one thing to note is that you can see I've created this fake authentication page with all of the different users that we created, and this is just because I don't want to go through the process of issuing a token for each one of these. And again, this is because I do not want to create a actual server that we need to communicate to, and that for that server then to issue a token. And as I said, we don't want to use the secret key in our application to issue tokens, because that is a security violation. And with that all said, I'm actually not using tokens at all for these users, and that is because I am using development tokens. And that is the first thing that we will look at now, and that is how we can configure a development environment. But just for fun, let's click James, and as you can see, it's loading, waiting, and then we're loading the channels, and then we have a variety of channels. I actually thought this user was one of the users with fewer channels, and as you can see, these are just channels that I made in the process of making all of the widgets. and doing my my testing. So you might be wondering, why are we seeing data? You may recall that previously the application had no data, and that is because we are using a different, or at least we are pointing to a different API. So as a dependency injector or as a service locator, I am using the package called getIt, and you may be familiar with this, and it's just an easy way to get access to singletons in your application. Or maybe not singletons, but instances created that you only want to create once. So if we explore the services folder over here, you can see I've made this service called chat service, and the chat service is everything related to the chat client or the stream chat client. And as you can see, we create a client as we normally did, and this token over here is not the token we previously saw. So the first thing that we want to do now is switch this token to the correct one. And then I'm just going to save this. And as I mentioned, I'm using getIt. So if we explore the service locator file, then you can see we are initializing getIt and we are calling it locator. And then we are setting up the locator with this function. And then I'm registering a navigation service that we will explore later. But for now, just take note of the chat service over here. So the chat service is everything related to this client, or everything related to the stream chat client. And then, for example, if we go to pages and we go to the home page, you can see that I'm initializing the stream chat, and this time I'm providing the client by calling locator and then giving the type of the class that I want to locate, and then I'm just calling .client on the chat service, and the client is literally this. So instead of passing it from parent to child, this is just a more convenient way to reference the client, as we will need this client in multiple parts of our application, especially once we start building custom features. So I mentioned the first thing that we will really take a look at is the fact that we're using development tokens. So if we go back to main.dart, then you can see that the first page is the authentication page. So if we head on over to the auth page, then you can see that we render all of these buttons. And in the logic for this widget that we're rendering, we have a raise button, and once this button is clicked, we call set user. And the set user does that. It sets the user to whatever button that we clicked, and we just pass in the ID. So for example, here it says Bernard, here it says John, and then it just passes in the ID. So this is just a cheap hack just to simulate authentication. And as I'm saying all of this now, I realize that this should not be in the widget, as this is a API call. So it would make a lot more sense to put this in our chat service file, and then just alter some of the logic. However, I'm not going to do that now. If you take a look at the final code that I will put on GitHub, this might be different. It might be a little bit cleaner and doing a bit more separation of concerns, as we don't want API calls within our widget, or at least not within our widget file. However, for demonstration purposes, this is fine. And as you can see, we are getting our client using locator and then getting the client on the chat service. And then the first thing that we do is just say try and make sure that we disconnect if we already authenticated. So for example, if I click Bernard, go to the chat page and then come back, and this is not something you'd want in a real application. And this is again just for demo purposes. What we really care about is the fact that we are calling set user on the client, as we saw before, or as we've seen before, and then we are giving it a user and we are specifying the ID. And as you can see, we can pass in extra data. So we can, for example, change the image of the user, the profile image. However, I'm not going to do that because this would override the data that I've already set for this particular user. And then the next parameter that we need is the token. So if we take this out of the way, you can see the next parameter is a token. And then we are calling dev token on the client, and then we're just issuing a dev token based on the ID of the user. So this means we don't have to go through that entire process of issuing a token using Python or issuing a token using the command line interface or whatever other way. So this is just a streamlined way to do development without worrying to authenticate the users. So that said, an important thing to note, for the dev token to actually work on the API calls, we would need to set a couple of things in our application. So if we go back to the dashboard and scroll down a little bit, you will see that we have authentication, and here we have disable auth checks and disable permission checks. So I'm just going to say yes to these, and obviously this should only be done in development environments, and don't accidentally do this in your production endpoint. But yeah, so we have disabled auth checks and we've disabled permission checks, and we're just going to hit save on this. So now that that is saved, we can use the developer tokens in our application. So I'm just going to do a restart, and this should restart with the chat application that we made. And now if we click one of these users, there should be nothing. So let's click James, and you will see that the channel list is empty, as we would expect, because we haven't created any channels or sent any messages yet. And again, I actually forgot an important thing, and that is to mention that you would need to incorporate the stream chat Flutter as a dependency in your app. So at the time of me recording this video, the version is 0.1.11, and it is also worth noting that it's still in beta. This is still very early phases for this entire project, or at least the Flutter side of things. So I can think of a lot of different things that the stream team can still incorporate on the Flutter side of things, and stuff that can be improved. And I'm very excited to see additional widgets and functionality that will be exposed. But yeah, with that all said, if you do encounter issues, the project is open source, and I'm sure that they would appreciate contributions or making GitHub issues if you encounter any problems. So let's get the pubsec out of the way because it's distracting to me. And then now you can see we have our empty page over here, except for the fact that we have this little plus button. And this plus button will take you to functionality that I made on the Stream client. Or maybe not on the Stream client, but functionality that I made using the Stream client. So let's take a look. If we hit plus, then it will take us to the new channels page, and then it will issue all of the users that you can add. So I'll take you through all of the code. I just want to run you through the creation of a channel. So these members that you see are the users that we made, and it's currently just listing all of the members that are on the application. I'm just gonna select maybe Jessica and John, and then let's say next, and then we can specify a channel name. So the channel name, I'm just gonna call this Friends Forever. And if we hit create, it's nice little warning saying you need to add a channel image, and we will add that channel image. So at this point, this was just me being lazy. Technically, you'd want to allow a user to upload a photo. However, you can't upload a profile picture to the Stream platform, as far as I am aware. But what you can do is, if this was a real chat application with real authentication and you had your own server, you would allow a user to upload an image to your server and then just update the Stream chat API to reference your image stored on your server, or at least reference the endpoint that exposes your image. So for the purposes of this demo, I am just gonna use free images on the internet, going to picsome.photos. So I'm gonna set the picture, and then I'm actually not sure what the picture is. Okay, it's the car picture. And then Friends Forever, let's create this. And now you can see the group has been made, Friends Forever. And let's send our first little message. So we're just going to say, hi, I hope you like my channel. Do you get the pun? And now if we head back and go back to our users page, and this time let's log in as Jessica. Jessica should have this update. So now Jessica is also part of the Friends Forever group. And you can see there's a little notification saying there's an unread message. So now Jessica can go, and Jessica gives this one a heart and she says, I love this channel. Fun with Flutter is the best. And if Jessica wanted to, she could go ahead and delete this message or edit it, but no, she does not want to do that. So now that we have a decent idea of how some of this functionality works, let's explore how we can do the customizations, and as you saw, how you can make some custom widgets using the API. And the very first thing to be aware of is the fact that you can override different kinds of themes. So as you can see, we have this theme color over here that's the same as my application, and this back button that should technically be white, and as it is a little bit hard to see. So that is what we will explore now, is how we can override some of the default themes. So if we head on over to our home page, and in the stream chat widget, you can see that there is a optional stream chat theme data. So let's just make a little bit more room. And the stream chat theme data, we can create that by calling stream chat theme data, and then from theme, and then I am giving the theme of the application. So this light theme over here, if we explore where this is used, you can see it is used in our main.dart file as the theme, and it is also used in our homepage to copy the light theme. So as you can see, we are setting the theme of our material app to use this light theme over here. So let's head back to our example. The emulator is getting in the way, so I'm just going to remove this or hide it. And then we're calling copy with, and then you can see there are a number of different attributes that we can set. And currently I'm setting the channel preview theme, and it's actually not set to anything. I think I was just playing around with this. So let's uncomment this and explore the channel theme. So here you can see I'm setting the color of the channel header theme to be the primary color, and that is why the color was set to that dark color. And then I'm copying the text to have a white color in the title, and the same for the last message. So if we bring the emulator back, you can see it's the same color that we set. So if we were to just completely remove this entire call over here up until there, then there should be a light theme instead. And as you can see, now it's white, and it's what we had originally. And just as we can set the header, there are a number of other themes that we can set as well. And yeah, I encourage you to take a look at the code yourself, and you can also take a look at their tutorial, as that goes into more detail on how you can actually customize the different themes. Okay, I am jumping ahead into the future, and as you can see, it looks slightly different. Now we have multiple channels. So I've just created some channels so that we can actually visualize some of the changes that we will be making. And in some of these channels, I've made a couple of message posts. And we will continue exploring customizing the theme. And I'm just going to show you some examples. I'm basically just going to take examples that they made in their tutorial just to highlight how you can make changes. And this will be the last theme change that we will make, as the other ones follow a similar pattern. So the one that we will explore is the own message theme. So the own message will be the message that you send, and as you can see, you can set the background color, the message text, and you can set your avatar as well. So I'm just going to save this, and then we should see differences. So now you can see that the messages that you send, those will be rendered slightly differently. So let's just send this message. It's great. And then you can see it looks different to what it was before. And yeah, quick way to customize themes. And as I mentioned, there are a number of different themes that you can set and customize. And next, we will explore how we can customize the channel preview. And the channel preview are these individual widgets that basically just render a preview of what the channel is about. So it shows you the time the message was sent, the channel name, and the profile picture as an example. However, we can change this entire widget to render exactly that what we want. So for these examples, again, I'm just going to take the examples that they made on their website, and I am in the channel or the customized channel preview page from their example folder, and I'm just going to copy this widget called channel preview builder. And you can see that they use the channel preview builder in the channel list view. So in the channel list view, they provide this optional builder function, and then they return this. So I copy that function, and I'm just going to put this in our application. So and the home page, I will just put it over here. And I think I copied one too many of these brackets. And then I'm going to take this and go down to the list view. Oh, I'm incorrect. I put it in the wrong place. Let's just take this out. Scroll down. It should be in the channel list page. As you can see here, we have the channel list view. So I'm just going to drop this over here. And we will explore this code in a moment. For now, we will just override the channel preview builder. And now if we hit save, instead of using the default that is set for the channel list view widget, we will now override the channel preview to use the channel preview builder instead. So we're just going to hit save. And you might have noticed a small difference. For one, you can see the entire GIF that I posted, and you will note that the time is gone as well, or the time of the last message. So not a big change. So let's actually see what else we can do. If we go to the function, you can see that in the function, we get the build context and the channel. And then using the channel, we can get the last message by calling state messages reversed and first where the message is not deleted. So we don't want to actually show if a message has been deleted. And the same way we can get the subtitle, and then as you can see, there's just some opacity check that they do if there is a new message. So for example, if there's a new message, then the opacity will be 1.0, otherwise the opacity will be 0.5 for the color, as you can see at the bottom here. But yeah, this isn't important. This is just an example. It could technically be whatever we want it to be. So as an example, if we set the color to green, then the title changes the color to green. Or if we wanted to, we can just remove the trailing, so the unread counts, but currently there's no unread count. So let's actually remove the channel image. And yeah, this is just to illustrate that you can customize this in any way that you want. And in a similar way, if we look at the channel page, so for example, if we click the Great Discussions page and we go down the rabbit hole, look at the actual message list view. So the message list view is what's rendered here. If we explore this, you can see we have a message builder and we have parent message and thread builder. So in the same way, we can customize these messages by overriding the message builder. And then we can customize the message to look in a custom way or whatever way we want it to look. So yeah, that is just a taste. You can customize this any way you want, or alternatively, you don't actually have to use the message list view. If we take a look at the code, you can technically incorporate your own message list view and just make use of the client to render it in any way that you want. You don't have to use these widgets. These widgets are just provided as a convenience. And something that I look forward to is once the catalog expands a bit more, once there are more default widgets that you can use, for example, widgets that allow you to set channels or create channels and basically just extend on the current functionality that is already available. But as I said, if the functionality is not available within the package, so within the Stream Chat Flutter package, then you can just go ahead and create it for yourself. And that is what we will explore next, how I made the new channel page. So just as a disclaimer, I'm not going to go into all of the detail for each widget that you see. So for example, I'm not going to discuss how you can make a selectable widget like this. I'm purely just going to focus on using the Stream API client. But feel free to take a look at the source code or ask questions in the comments if there's something specific you want to know. But with that said, let's jump in. So all of the logic is within the add channel page. So if you go to pages, you can see there are multiple pages, and one of those pages is add channel, which has its own folder because there are multiple sub pages as well and multiple widgets that we are making use of. So the first page is the add users page, and this is the page that you can see over here, and you can see that the build function makes use of a future builder, and the future builder has a feature that calls the function getAllUsers on the chat service. And then we are using getIt and that global locator that we made to call the chat service class, or to get the instance of the chat service class. And then we're calling the method getAllUsers. And the method getAllUsers is an API call using the client that we initialized. And then we query all the users, and then we just sort by the last message at. I'm actually not too sure what will happen if we don't sort by anything. I would assume it just returns them as they're stored. I haven't actually tested the different sorting options, but for now I'm just using the last message at option. And then based on the value, we just return the users. And once we have all the users, I take the snapshot and then say once we have actual data. So if you take a look over here, once the connection state is equal to done, or we can also say if snapshot has data, I believe, has data, yeah. If we just validate that data has been returned, then we can proceed to render all the users that are on screen. And you will note, before I do that, I just get the current user using the same locator, and then just calling current user, which returns the client.state.user, so whoever we are authenticated as. And then I am creating a new list of users, getting the list of every single user returned by the snapshot or by the future, except for where the user ID is the same as the current user. And that is because I do not want to render the current user on the screen, because by default, we will add that user. So whichever user creates the channel, they will automatically be added to the list. And you can see that I add the current user as a channel member. And over here, I am not doing any advanced state management. I'm literally just passing the data from the parent widget to the child widget that is selected on this page to the next page when we do a navigation. So you can see at the bottom here, I am calling navigate to, and this is my navigation service. And then I'm just passing in the arguments of all of the selected users. And for these buttons, every time a user is selected, they just get added to this channel member list or to this selected user list. And while we are talking about the navigation, I want to mention the fact that I created this navigation service with a navigator key. And you will note that this navigator key is set in the main.dart file. So you can see that over here, we specify the navigator key. And that is because I want to make sure to use the main material apps navigation for these page transitions over here. And that is because if you just call and navigate, so for example, if we were to call navigator .of and then context and then proceed to navigate to, for example, push routes or push named or whatever, then that would actually use the navigator of the stream chat widget. So if we actually go back a page, this page over here where we render the list view, that is a child. So if we go to the home page, the list view page over here, channel list page, that is a child of the stream chat widget. And the stream chat widget makes use of its own navigator. So the navigation between this chat page over here and going back to the channel list page, that is a normal navigator call in Flutter, just to push a new page onto the stack. So if you want to incorporate your own navigation, once you are within the stream chat widget over here, so for example, all of this logic over here are child widgets of the stream chat widget, then we just want to make sure that we use the correct navigation or the correct navigator. And that is why I made this navigation service and why this function is exposed navigate to, which uses the navigator key.current state, and then we push the new route onto the stack. So yeah, the main takeaway is just to be aware that the stream chat widget uses its own navigator. But okay, let's continue. So once we've selected a couple of users, this will take us to the add channel page. And in the add channel page, as you can see, we just allow a user to select a profile picture, enter some text, and then we just show the selected members. And all of this logic technically has nothing to do with using the Stream API. I am just validating the image once it has been set, making sure that there are images set and that actual values have been passed. And over here, also doing validation to make sure that the image is an actual image. So if you're interested, you can take a look at the code. All of the code over here is in the add channel page. And if you go to the widgets folder, that is a subfolder of add channel, then you can see we have the create channel input widget over here, which is this input box. And this input box also shows the bottom sheet over here. And then for the actual logic to create the channel, you will see that I have this future function called create channel. And again, this should technically be in the services, the chat service file over here. However, I definitely got lazy at the end and just dropped it into this widget file over here. But also for the fact that it's just easier to read. So this is by no means the cleanest architecture. This is just demonstrating how you can use the Stream API. But yeah, what you want to do is you want to call locator, as we always do, or whatever dependency injection you use, or whatever way you want to access the client. If you want to use inherited widgets, or if you want to use provider, or if you want to use block, that is up to you. And then once you have the client, then I'm just doing some validations and returning a snack bar if some of these validations aren't met. This, I can remove the print call. And then if all of this is valid, then I call client.channel and then specifying the type of the channel to be messaging and then generating a random ID. So this is one thing I'm not too sure about because the documentation says that the channel will issue an ID by default and that the ID is optional. And if the ID is not provided, then it will issue an ID based on the selected users. But currently that has not been implemented yet. So if you take a look at the code over here, the ID would actually need to be provided. So maybe in a future update, you won't need to actually set the ID. But yeah, just for demo purposes for now, I'm just issuing a random ID using the UUID package. So if you want to use that, you can just incorporate or add the dependency for the UUID package. Or you can generate unique IDs in whatever way you want, or you can allow the user, I guess, to set an ID. And then you can see I'm setting a couple of fields. So the extra data property over here, and then setting the name, the image, and the members. So the members, the name, and the image. And then clicking create, and to create the channel, we are awaiting channel.watch. And here is actually someplace I'm a little bit confused because we need to call watch, otherwise there will be errors later on in the application. But it says loads the initial channel state and watches for changes. So I'm not actually sure what the optimal way is to stop watching for these changes. However, in my experience, if you don't call watch, then if you go to the channel list view page, it will actually give an error. So if someone more experienced than myself knows what exactly you need to do at this point, that would be appreciated. Just let us know in the comments. But for now, I'm calling channel.watch, and there is a method to say channel.unwatch, I believe, or something similar to that. Let's scroll down. Oh yes, the method is stop watching. But anyway, once we wait for the channel to watch, then we return true. And once this method returns true, so if we look where we call this method, you can see that once channel created is finished, then we say if the channel has been created. So if this is true, or if the method returned true, then we just call the function return to chat, and then we are using the navigator of, and now you can see I'm actually not using the navigation service. Technically I should be using that just for consistency. However, technically I can now use the navigator of, because the parent navigator will now be the navigator that we used before. Sorry if I made you very confused with using navigators. Honestly, it is a little bit confusing. But yeah, I hope you get the idea. The point of this isn't entirely just to show you how to make these individual pages. The point is to illustrate that you can create your own chat application using the Stream API. So once you finally have access to the client, so for example in the chat service, this client, if you can access this client, you can technically get access to all of the information that you need to build a chat application. And along with that, you get the benefit of having all of these unique, or not unique, but ready-made widgets to do unique and custom messaging on the fly. And you also get the benefit of getting stuff like notifications to your phone. I haven't tested that, but I believe that will be a feature. And you can easily add members, channels, and basically get all of the goodness of having a chat application by only incorporating a couple of widgets into your application. But yeah, I hope you found this useful. And if you are interested in more tutorials discussing Stream, let me know in the comments. Maybe we can do one that's a little bit more in-depth, or a tutorial that covers more of the finer grained detail, or a tutorial where we go from start to finish and make an actual chat application that you can publish to the Play Store or the App Store. Stream also provides a feed API, which is entirely different to their chat API. So there's an entire subsection left to explore on that side as well. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a like. And until next time, cheers.